Hi, Christian. Can we ask you about your brother and the possibilities of him playing with El Salvador?
Yeah, obviously El Salvador has a lot of big games coming up. You know, we as coming from the background that we come from, you know, we have the ability to play for 3 different countries. And a lot like what Schmetzer said, you know, it's not my notion. It's not my turn to talk about it, to release any info. But the important thing for me is that he is playing extremely well, and the fact that, you know, 2 of the 3 countries that he's eligible for are knocking on the door is extremely important. People are noticing what he's doing. Whether he chooses El Salvador, whether he goes with Guatemala, I think it's an important step in his career, and it's going to help him long term, you know, in terms of contract stuff, in terms of overall career. But it is not my case to chime in, and you know, he's going to make a decision, the best decision for him. But you know, there's a lot of logistics that go into it, so you know, it'll depend on what, you know, what happens really with all the things on the side, the logistics that go hand in hand with playing for a country that he wasn't born in.
May I ask, is it hard to kind of not say much, or is it a family discussion at all, or is it kind of hard to kind of stay out of the picture because it is your brother?
Yeah, you know, it's a decision that he has to make, right? You know, I can give him my best advice. You know, I was in contact with Guatemala at one point in my career. I was in a similar boat than he was, but you know, it's his decision at the end of the day. But family's important to us. Family's everything to us. So you know, those conversations are held privately, obviously, but you know, everybody has their time to speak, and what they think is best for his career. But ultimately, it's his decision. But as a family, we always come together and discuss these things, because family is so important to us.
Christian, go ahead. Thanks. So I just wanted to know a little bit more. Obviously, that's what I kind of wanted to ask is, you've been in that position before. What went into your decision? How did that thought process go for you? Like, what elements were you really looking at for your decision making?
Well, for my decision, you know, it was a little bit early in my career, and there was already talk about potentially going to Gold Cup with the national team, potentially going to January camp with the U.S. national team. So that kind of stopped me from taking any further steps. You know, I had Ziggy as well, you know, helping me through the process at that time. You know, so it had a lot to do with, you know, the national team already, you know, at the door, the U.S. national team at the door. So that made my decision a little bit easier, because I think in my heart, I always wanted to give back to the United States because of what they had given to my family. So it's a little bit different for Alex. Obviously, 2 countries that are wonderful places, and we've, you know, are very fond of those places. So it's just a matter of, you know, his decision, where he wants to play, where his heart's at, and also, you know, big games. You know, I think everybody wants to play in big games, so we'll see what happens.
Christian, also with the Salvadorian American community in the United States, which is huge. Also, we have Eric Zabaleta, who played in Sounders back in 2013, 2014, and now he's in La Selecta. Do you think with your brother also, you guys, I mean, they are initiating something bigger for the, or opening the doors for the following Salvadorian American players coming up in the next years?
Yeah, I think you see it with both countries, with both Guatemala, El Salvador. They're calling dual nationalities, just like the US is doing. I mean, they're using all their resources possible to get the best team on the field. And, you know, that's exactly what they should be doing, right? You know, you see it with Ruben, you've seen it with Eric Zavaleta, Josh Perez. These are guys that, you know, were or are still starters, you know, on big teams. And at one point they were doing extremely well in their careers, and they continue to do so. So it's great that these countries, you know, want to compete and are branching out to dual nationalities. And it's just a matter of these guys competing. So like you mentioned, Eric Zavaleta, I'm extremely happy for him. And I mentioned Ruben, who also has to make a tough decision. But it is a good thing, and hopefully everybody's happy with the decision that they make.
Cristian, I'm going to ask you the question in English, but if you can also give me an answer in both in English and Spanish for our Spanish shows. How do you feel about coming back after a break? And the first game is LA Galaxy. It's in LA. It's a tough place to play. They're thirsty for revenge. How do you prepare? You as a leader also, how do you prepare yourself, and what do you tell your teammates?
Yeah, well, luckily we've played LA Galaxy, and we can watch film on them and have a bit of a game plan. When you haven't played a team, it makes it a little bit more difficult. So in that sense, it's really nice. However, you know, we will always think about game to game rather than week to week. But we do have, you know, a 3-game week, and that's going to be extremely important. We're going to have to use and utilize every single one of our players on the roster. And you know, the important thing is that if we can get a good result and start off the week right, you know, we'll be flying with confidence. But like you mentioned, it's going to be a tough game against Galaxy away on a big field with some heat. So it's going to be a tough one. But I believe our you know, our team is playing well, although we haven't had our best results the last 2 games. We have the ability to go out there and get a win. And I'll translate that in Spanish just really quick. Para mí, el partido contra LA Galaxy va a ser difícil. Pensamos partido a partido en vez de tomar los partidos que vienen en cuenta. Va a ser complicado esta semana. Vamos a necesitar muchos jugadores para todos los partidos, pero si conseguimos un resultado contra Galaxy, vamos a estar bien y con mucha confianza en los partidos que vienen.
But Cristian, coming back from such a long international break, obviously don't know how the team is going to respond. And as you said, it's a tough game away to a very good side. Is there something like, say, in the first, I'm just estimating here, 10 or 15 minutes where you might say, you know what, I think this is going to be a good game for us? Is there one specific thing that'll tell you the team is, you know, sharp and clicking?
Well, I can tell you right now that there's going to be moments of rust. And, you know, as long as that rust doesn't turn into, you know, errors that, you know, happen to be on LA's favor and they end up scoring, we'll be all right. You know, we can't have unforced errors that lead to goals. So, you know, rust is fine. It'll happen. You know, we'll carry on with it. But we have to be smart when we want to take chances. So, you know, first 10, 15 minutes, we have to be smart, you know, not over pressing, but also not defending too low. We can't be trapped in our own half for too long. So it's going to be I can tell you right now, it's going to be an extremely difficult game. And it's a matter of showing quality. And that's something that we lacked the last 2 games. So that's what I'm focused on, the quality in front of goal. And I think our team can do it.
Cristian, speaking of Gold Cup, where's your mind as far as potentially playing in the Gold Cup, or have you had any talks with Greg, or do you have a preference of whether to go or stay?
Yeah, that's a great question because you know, as a player, you want to participate in all the tournaments and all the national team games, and you know, not gonna lie, it's been tough to not be part of the team the last couple of games. Although I'm extremely happy for them and how they're doing, and I'll be like their biggest supporter every time. But you know, you want to play in the big games, in the big tournaments, and you know, as a professional soccer player, you could only really focus on what you're doing here in Seattle. You can only focus on how you're playing. You can't really take, you know, it's not your decision at the end of the day. So if I'm playing well and I'm making or Greg sees me playing well, you know, that's the decision he has to make. So that's what I'm focused on. You know, I'd be happy to go, you know, because it's such an honor always to play for the national team. And I believe that I still have a lot to offer. But at the same time, it's not my decision. And I just have to continue playing well and doing my part here with the Sounders.
Christian, along those lines, is there any extra motivation in a tournament year like this when you're trying to play your way into those biggest games and trying to get back to be a part of that team?
Yeah, you know, there's extra motivation, you know, seeing the guys win a trophy, you know, how well the midfielders are playing. You know, there's a lot of competition within the national team, and it's great to see. So there's always that added bit of motivation. You know, you want to be in the big games, like I mentioned. So, you know, I'm ready to rock if I get called in, and if I don't, you know, I'll be rooting for them, and I'll be working extremely hard for the Seattle Sounders.
Christian, I would like to ask you this question, if you can answer in English and Spanish, please. Coach Brian just mentioned that Raul was happy being back in Seattle Sounders, but from a player perspective, you know, it's not easy not being called for the national team while you've been representing your national team for a while. How do you see Raul mentally and emotionally since he's been back to the States?
Yeah, at times when you don't get called into the national team, you almost see the level of play increase. You know, and I'm hoping, you know, while I'm seeing that in training for Raul, but I'm hoping that that's the case, you know, in games. You know, we expect Raul to score many more goals this year. And, you know, if he uses this not getting called into Peru as motivation, that'll be the best case for us. So I'm excited for him, because what better game to come back to against LA Galaxy and Chicharito, who's, you know, he's obviously one goal behind him. So you know, Raul is going to be motivated, and hopefully it has that impact in him. And I'll talk in Spanish about that, but para mí Raúl va a estar motivado porque no lo llamaron. Siempre a veces vemos jugadores jugar mejor cuando no lo escogen para la selección, y no hay un mejor partido para hacer más goles y jugar contra LA Galaxy, que andan muy bien, y que Chicharito anda muy bien.
Christian, I had an off question. Just as a soccer player, what were your thoughts on Christian Eriksen, you know, collapsing and everything that happened at that moment? You know, how did you take it? What are your thoughts on everything that happened?
Yeah, it was really tough to see. You know, the guys got a little bit emotional in the locker room, because it could really happen to anybody, and that's the scary part. You know, this, you know, human being who's, you know, almost seems untouchable, you know, passes out and essentially dies on the field. And, you know, us as soccer players about to go train, you know, you can understand how emotional that is. So, you know, it was extremely loving to see, you know, the reaction in the soccer world and how the medical staff did. But it puts things into perspective that, you know, soccer isn't everything, and the well-being of everybody is just as important. So make sure you enjoy your moments with your loved ones, and cherish those moments that you take for granted at times.
So,
I just wanted to ask one final question to you, Christian. You mentioned that we're going to have a 3-game week coming up. There's probably going to be more than one of those. Do you feel like with the depth and quality you have in the side, that you have so many talented players up and down the roster at each position, do you feel like that, you know, you'll be using a lot of different players? Do you feel like it'll show just how good this team is from top to bottom, that you have so many good players that you'll be able to bring in and out of the lineup during these very busy weeks of games?
Yeah, it's important to have a lot of depth here in the MLS. You know, obviously with Gold Cup, you know, you lose guys, and then injuries like we've had, and being able to you know, move past that with the quality of players that we have, and then also the travel, the difficulty in playing midweek, and having to utilize all your players because of how physical this league is. You know, we saw it maybe a month back, you know, when we played Portland, San Jose. That was a 9-point week, and if you're able to do that against Western Conference teams, it puts you above a lot of those teams. So these 3-game weeks are extremely important, and especially when you're playing against Western Conference teams, it just adds a little bit more emphasis and motivation to that week.
So Christian, what is your opinion about the national team? The coach called most of the players were the players that are in Europe, and he used few of the MLS. And the reports around the world were talking about the development of this player, younger player, very talented in these other clubs like in Barcelona, Tottenham, and all this, but not in MLS. You think that this is that the MLS is losing a window where they can expose the development of the players that are in the MLS?
Well, I think it was planned, you know, calling up a lot of the European guys, because obviously they're in the off season for Gold Cup. So it was a lot of it was planned, but at the same time, you know, I don't think, you know, the league gets enough credit. It is such a tough league to play in. I mean, you see Gonzalo Higuain's quote. You know, it's a difficult league, and if you're not physically fit, if you're not ready to compete, it's going to be a tough one. So I think this league deserves a little bit more credit. But at the same time, you know, we have, as a national team, we have guys that are playing extremely well in Europe. So kudos to them, and you know, I hope they continue to do well. But this league is good enough to provide players for national teams, and also, you know, develop these players for Europe, for the top 5 leagues in the world. So I'm excited about the league because it continues to get better. We see it every year. The quality of play is getting better. But in terms of the national team, you know, I expect, you know, Gold Cup to have a lot of MLS guys in there.
Thank you.
I got a last one, if I could. Christian, I just wanted to know, you're playing at an MVP caliber for the best team in MLS at the moment. Do you feel like you're playing the best soccer of your career? And how much do you really spend thinking about individual awards such as, you know, the MVP of the MLS and such?
Nico, I'll be honest, it hasn't even crossed my mind. You know, it's something that is isn't too attainable for players like me, you know, I'll continue to work hard, and I'll continue to do my team. But, you know, my play will always fly under the radar, because a lot of stuff is off the ball. So people don't appreciate, you know, everything I do at times. And in terms of, you know, playing, if I'm playing the best ever in my career, honestly, you know, probably, but at the same time, I'm also playing a little bit higher. So there are times where you see me a lot more, and so doing a lot of less defending, you know, individual defending. So that probably has to do with it as well. But you know, hasn't crossed my mind, Nico. I'm you know, trying to do my part for Seattle while guys are missing, and then, you know, I'll potentially fill my role again in a deeper midfield role. But I'm excited for the future of this team, because we have a lot of young guys that are coming up, and you know, are playing extremely well.